Hi friends, you're listening to the Happiness Soundtrack. My name is Jana Barrett, but you can call me Jana Banana. I'm a commercial flight attendant who's fascinated by the associations we form with music. And for me, one of those associations got too strong. So for my birthday in 2024, I decided to spend a full year listening only to music I'd never heard before. To find new songs, I started passing around a journal, asking people to write about a song that reminds them of a happy memory. And those songs are what I call the Happiness Soundtrack. I try to ask at least one person a day, and I'll keep going until every page of that journal is full. This is where I share some of the songs, the stories, and the beautiful moments that unfold from that one simple question. Today, I want to tell you about how firefighters responded to my musical emergency. So here we go. For the first time in 5 months, I finally got to visit my best friend. Although we both live in the DMV, which is the colloquialism for the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, we each have very different schedules. Plus, she's in Virginia and I'm in Maryland. And traffic is brutal. Brutal. It normally takes about 90 minutes to get to her place, but for some reason it only took an hour that day. My friend hadn't anticipated that and was therefore out running errands. So I decided to stop at her local Starbucks to kill some time. As I passed the nearby fire station, I couldn't help but ponder one of my goals for the Happiness Soundtrack. Someday, I wanted to ask a firefighter for their song. But I wondered how I'd ever be able to accomplish that. Anytime I see a fire truck, it's either blazing past me with sirens, or parked at a public place while they perform EMT services. Or, fighting fires. Would I ever get an opportunity? Could I pull up to the station and just ask at the front desk? Do they even have a front desk? The only time I'd ever seen firefighters in an approachable setting was at a grocery store in San Francisco once. They were just pushing their carts around in full uniform as though it was completely ordinary. But then I've done the same thing in my flight attendant uniform a time or two while on the way home from work. Everybody's got to buy groceries, and I guess firefighters are no exception. I figured it was inappropriate to text my ex and tell him to ask his firefighter brother for me. Better just start asking around to see if my friends knew of anyone. Or I could just wait till I saw one in an airport someday. I've occasionally seen them traveling to help control wildfires. Finally, I reached the shopping center with the Starbucks, which is conveniently shared with a grocery store. As I turned down the road to park, something unusual caught my eye. A fire truck. A fire truck. Not whizzing past, not twirling its lights along the curb, not fighting any fires, just parked there in the back, and blocking several spaces to keep the lane clear. As I drove past in disbelief, I saw 3 firemen in full uniform walking straight towards me. I felt the music god smiling upon me. It was the perfect chance to ask. Except, it was also very weird. Normally, I only ask people after establishing some rapport. It's almost always an odd direction to take the conversation, but at least there's a conversation to steer. This would be a cold call. No small talk or banter whatsoever, just jumping straight in to ask a random question that's also intimate and personal. I absolutely hate cold calls. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, but I try not to let that stop me. If you've listened to episode 4, which is called All You Have to Do Is Ask, then you know exactly why I've come to hate the feeling of never trying, even more than making a fool of myself. So I quickly considered what would be less awkward, stopping the car and rolling down the window to catch them walking by, or parking the car and approaching the truck to ask them before they left. They were strolling, and I was rolling. The opportunity was literally passing me by. My inner monologue was going crazy. Okay, Banana, are you going to roll down the window or are you going to park and get out? Come on, pick one, pick one, pick one. Now! By that time, I had passed the point of being able to brake casually, so I could either go with the second option or just keep going about my day and let them live their fireman lives. I decided to park and get out, and was brutally aware of just how strange it would make me look. Still, I snagged the closest parking spot, shut off the car, and took a deep breath. Then I grabbed my purse, clambered out of the driver's seat, and hurried over to the truck. No running, though. That would have been weird. By that time, the guys were climbing into the cab. Literally. The truck was so high off the ground that each door had 3 metal steps below it. Besides the driver, I saw someone behind him and a man in the passenger seat. None of them noticed me. They were all chatting as they got situated, but I could only tell because I saw their mouths moving. The loud hum of the motor drowned out all other noise, which meant they also couldn't hear my loud and cheerful, "Hi!" So I just stood there, waiting. After a few moments, I backed up to get into their line of sight. Then I smiled and waved, and shouted another hello. The windows were all down, but my voice was again lost in the rumbling of the diesel engine. Plus, they had all donned their headsets so they could hear each other over the continuous roar. Finally, the driver noticed me and smiled. However, it was the type of smile that acknowledges someone's presence, but also says, "You don't want to engage." I smiled again and repeated my awkward greeting for a third time. At least they hadn't heard the first 2 attempts, so it was 66.6% less awkward for them than it was for me. Then I launched into my request, which was frequently interrupted by my own nervous laughter. Hi! So, I'm doing a music project where I ask everyone the same question. I try to ask as many different types of people as possible, and I wanted to ask a firefighter, but I didn't know when I'd get the chance. I just want to know, what's a song that reminds you of a happy memory? You'd never know I'm a glamorous, elegant flight attendant. So put together, so polished. The driver took a moment to process what I'd said. Then with his voice, he replied, "Okay." But with his tone and body language, he had said, "What the hell is happening right now?" Finally, he continued, "Well, that's an interesting question." He sat back as he pondered. Then he turned to the other guys in the truck. "She just wants to know what's a song that reminds you of a happy memory," he hollered over the rumbling. At that point, I saw someone behind the passenger seat as well. So 4 men in total. 4 men to witness my absurdity. Fabulous. Fabulous. I just stood there, soaking up the awkwardness. What they didn't know was that I'd grown up extremely shy and riddled with social anxiety. So I already had a lifetime of experience being incredibly awkward. I couldn't even count how many times I'd said something ridiculous that made total sense to me, but that no one else had understood. If anyone was accustomed to this discomfort, it was me. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? They'd tell me they needed to go do some important fireman things. I wouldn't have blamed them. I'd just continue on with my coffee objective and call it a day. Then I'd try it again some other way, using the methods I'd already contemplated. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of silence, except for the rumbling, the guy behind the driver leaned out his window and shouted, "Who says you can't go home?" by Bon Jovi. A smile glowed across my face as I yelled, "Awesome!" I unzipped my bag and dug out the journal. "Would you mind to jot it down here, please?" I grabbed onto his window frame and pulled myself up onto the highest metal step. And then I handed him the book. Bold, damn it, I thought to myself, although I couldn't help but feel like I was being incredibly imposing. The kind young firefighter didn't write any story or explanation about his song, just the title and the artist and his own name. So I thanked John for sharing, and then shouted through a smile, "Well, the most random part of your day is over now. I appreciate you guys, and thank you for everything you do." At this, I jumped down from the steps, shoved the journal back into my purse, and strutted towards the Starbucks. I didn't even have my coffee yet, and I already had the jitters. It took several minutes to process what had just happened. Oh my god, what did I just do? Did I just do that? Oh my god! Jana, you weirdo! Oh my god. The more I thought about it, though, the more proud I was. The Jana from 10, 20, or even 30 years ago, especially 30 years ago, would never have done that. The Jana from 1 year ago might not even have done that. Clearly, I was a new me, and that was exciting. Not only had I accomplished my goal, but I'd embraced an opportunity life had served to me on a silver platter. I figured if I had shown life that I would take advantage of those opportunities, maybe it would send me some more. It's quite possible that I've become some odd legend around the fire station. And to those guys, I'll probably always be known as that weird music girl. But you know what? I'm fine with that. In fact, I think that title has a pretty nice ring to it. Well, thank you for listening. I still can't believe I did that. How about you? When was the time you pushed through your own discomfort? Have you ever jumped into something before you felt ready? Maybe it didn't feel like the perfect time, but you knew it was the right opportunity. Or what's something you've been waiting for that perfect chance to do? I'd love to hear it. Feel free to share your thoughts with me. There are a few ways to do so. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, you can drop a comment. Or if you're on Instagram, connect with me at Happiness Soundtrack and comment on the post for this episode. Feel free to DM me about your song too. I would love to hear your story. As for my stories, I share a new one every Monday, and next week I'm going to tell you about some eye-opening music math. I don't love math, but I do love music, so I tolerated music math, and I estimated how much longer it'll take for me to finish the journal. I'm going to tell you how that realization changed my approach and some of the things that came from that discovery. You can listen to all the stories right here on the podcast, watch the videos on YouTube, or read the blog at happinesssoundtrack.com. The website also has more details about the project, such as monthly playlists for every song in the journal, and a submission page so you can share your song for a chance to be featured on the show. If you'd like to help more people find the podcast, you can either share this episode with someone who could use a little boost, or leave a rating or review on Apple or Spotify. Or if you're on YouTube, hit the like button or subscribe to the channel. The more people do that, the more those platforms understand this is something people enjoy, and the more they'll recommend the show to others. Thank you very much for your support. And thank you again for listening to one of my biggest moments of awkwardness, my God. I'm glad you're having a good time here. I know I am. Have a great week, and I'll be back next Monday with a song and a smile.